I really like some of the late additions Alex Golesh added via the portal, and it could be a sign of what they're also trying to do in the future.
You are Locked On Auburn, your daily podcast on the Auburn Tigers. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Yes, welcome on into Locked On Auburn, your daily Auburn Tigers podcast. I'm your host, Zac Blackerby, and thank you so much for making Locked On Auburn your first listen every single day. Wanted to hop on here for just 10 minutes or so for a little bonus edition, just to share a few thoughts on some of the late additions happening in the portal, just due to travel and timing of recordings. Haven't been able to be as prompt as we were at the start of the portal window. Kenneth McManus and Kamari Todd, two guys that have been added recently, I think are kind of a sign and a signal and maybe even some sort of symbolism or representation of what Alex Golesh and his staff may be trying to do. Sure, they can provide depth and competition for market share of snaps at their respective positions in 2026. But I also think this is part of the future as well. So we'll start with Kenneth McManus from Akron. Played 504 snaps on the offensive line last year, and all of them were at left guard. And then his special teams action came on field goal unit. And he was okay. PFF grades him out as just okay. But it goes back to the conversation we had earlier in the week about Kamari Todd, the nickel defensive back, middle of the field defender that transferred to Auburn from Chattanooga. Similar situation, over 500 snaps on defense. I think he had over 100 snaps on special teams, and just a guy who's already played a good bit of football in really his only season as a college football player. Kenneth McManus is in the same boat. Both of these guys, true sophomores, and I've said it over and over and over again, and I'll say it till I'm blue in the face. The core of this roster, not the superstars of this roster, potential superstars of this roster, but the core of this roster. The group that's going to decide if Auburn can win 6 or 7 games or 8 or 9 games. They're true sophomores across the board. Omar Mabson, the lone sophomore running back. Fascinating to see how he finds a role in this loaded running back room. At receiver, goodness gracious, Jeremiah Coger, Christian Neptune, Bryce Kane. I think all three of those guys have some sort of role. They're going to have to compete to see how large that role is, but those are the true sophomores in the receiver room. Definitely in the tight. Auburn has 5 tight ends. One's a freshman, one's a senior. The rest are this true sophomore class of Jonathan Eccles from USF, Xavier Newsome of Howard, and then Ryan G., who committed to Auburn, I guess, 2 years ago. Offensive line, I think, is the exception to this rule because I do think it serves a different purpose. They brought in 5 senior offensive linemen and a true junior in Stanton Ramil to, I think, kind of serve as a stopgap between we got to survive. We got to have a serviceable offensive line in 2026, obviously, to run any offense, but especially the offense that Alex Golesh wants to run. But the future of Cale Ellis and Kenneth McManus, I think they're both going to compete for reps, especially Cale Ellis. Is it at center? Is it at guard? That'll be a fascinating conversation that we're going to get to have several times throughout the offseason. And then with the offensive line, we're going to throw in some redshirt freshman guys as well, like TJ Hedrick from Ole Miss. He was a pretty highly touted recruit not that long ago to Ole Miss. How does he fit into this? And then Ty Buster, an offensive lineman that obviously the previous staff liked a lot. And then Jacoby Ward is a guy that we've heard that this staff likes a ton. So that age group, as far as guys with a ton of eligibility left, still, I think it's a big part of the O-line, but maybe not for 2026. Defensive line, it's certainly the case with Walter Mathis, Buddy Mathis Jr. from LSU, Malik Autry, Jordan Crawford, Darian Smith, all true sophomores, all second-year college defensive linemen. Edge, same thing. Jared Smith, goodness gracious, his potential impact one way or the other on this team, his importance on this team is crucial. You brought in 2 older guys for sure to help kind of bridge that gap because they need more guys playing edge in this offense or this defense on this team. Linebacker, probably an exception, but you still feel really good about Elijah Melendez and Bryce Diaz. And then defensive back, goodness gracious. Shamar Arnaud, Eric Winters, Duboy Fagans, Blake Woodby, Gavin Jenkins, Shadrick Tootle, and Kamari Todd. The true sophomore class is the core of this roster. And some of those guys are going to have an easier path to contributing than others. Some of that might be who's in front of them. Some of that might be just raw talent. Some of that might be positional. It's easier to play in some positions earlier in your career than others. But regardless, I think it serves as a perfect balance. Oh my goodness, you're adding guys from Chattanooga and Akron and USF and Howard. Yeah, and some of them are going to be for 2026, and some of them are going to be guys that are asked to be role players and then eventually have the opportunity to compete for starting spots. What's the downside? The balance of getting a guy like this or getting a guy who's a lottery pick as a recruit, I don't know. I think I'd rather have this in most instances. Maybe not every 4-star, but a lot of these 3-star guys where it's like, okay, they're solid. They're really good high school players. How do they, become impact players in the SEC? I don't know. I'd rather have these guys than I think a lot of the 3-star guys that you're getting out of the high school ranks. And a lot of this too, like, we're assuming. I think there's a lot of assumptions on this roster. I think there's a lot of assumptions on the strategy that Alex Golesh and the staff have. But I do think one assumption that we're all making, and I'm okay with it, is that Alex Golesh and the staff, they're going to have a better fit for guys. They're looking for a specific style and fit. And I think that's important. And that's something that I think the previous staff did not do super great. A few guys that I think are flying under the radar that I'm fascinated to see what they do this spring. That's next, right here on Locked on Auburn. Today's show brought to you by our friends at FanDuel. FanDuel is America's #1 sportsbook. And man, great time to get on the action on Championship Sunday. The New England Patriots head to the Denver Broncos as 5.5-point favorites. Different story for the home team on the NFC as Seattle hosts the LA Rams. So do you want to bet on Carlton Davis? Do you want to bet on Jarrett Stidham? Do you want to bet for Jarquez Hunter's team? Or do you want to bet for Derek Hall's team? We're going to have some Auburn representation in the Super Bowl. Auburn guys will get Super Bowl rings this year, which is very, very fun. Get in on the action at FanDuel. Check out FanDuel.com. They've all got all sorts of different promotions going on all the time. FanDuel.com or check out the FanDuel app today. Thank you so much for making Locked on Auburn your first listen every single day. I want to highlight just a few guys. These are in no particular order because I think there are so many fascinating storylines about pretty much every portal guy that they've brought in. I think there's different angles to discuss. I want to talk about Tristan Tia, the backup quarterback. We're assuming he's QB2 just because he's played more than Lachlan Hewlett. I'm fine with that. I'm fascinated to see how these two guys battle and how reps are distributed in spring. I heard Jake Crane say this, and I've stolen it. I say it all the time. Like, you build your team in the spring, and then you get ready for the season in the fall. And there's going to be a battle for QB2, which I absolutely love. Because I'm just getting the vibe. I'm just assuming here. I don't think Alex Golesh is going to be like super eager to go to the portal for quarterback every time the portal window or every time the transfer portal opens. Could be wrong. I think there's a chance they might have to next year, and then we'll see what happens the following year with Tia and Hewlett or who they bring in for eligibility. But obviously Byron Brown's your guy. How many of the reps go to Byron? Does he get all of the first team reps? Do they sprinkle in others just to get that experience for Tia and Hewlett? That'll be fun to see and talk to folks after practice to see kind of what that looks like. Are the backup, with the twos, is that a pretty even split for Tia and Hewlett? And then Reese Brush is the third string guy / scout team. And over the course of spring, do we see a separation between Tia and Hewlett? I can't wait to see that because I think that does signify, look, both these guys are redshirt freshmen. They both have the same situation from an eligibility standpoint, which I don't love that they did that. I said that when we reacted to the Tia news. I like both of them. I don't love that they're both the same class and have the same eligibility situation because I want all that staggered. And I think in today's age, and maybe you don't even need to worry about this at all, and you just look at it year by year. But in today's age of the transfer portal, is whoever's QB3 coming out of spring, like what are the odds that they're going to be on the roster next year? Now, the good thing is you don't have to worry about disguising that going through spring because there's no post-spring transfer portal. And so you'll actually get to see these battles, I think, kind of work themselves out because coaches can actually coach like they should in the spring, and you don't have to worry about guys leaving. So I'm fascinated by the two transfer portal quarterbacks that aren't Byron Brown, Tia and Hewlett, just to see how they duke it out, and also how Alex Golesh handles that competition from a reps standpoint. I think it's Tia. I think Tia will be QB2, but I like Lachlan Hewlett too, with what we've seen from his high school stuff. So fascinating stuff. What backup battle are you most interested in? Let us know in the comments down below. Please like the video. Please subscribe. We'll see you next time. This has been Locked on Auburn.